All right, Htp family. You're tuning into the pro-black perspective on KWAZ radio. Obviously, we're going to read essay 16. I know it's probably a little later than you would expect, although you don't expect me on any weekdays, but I'm just going to try to read through these things. Maybe not on a daily, but just read through them as long as nobody else is podcasting on the KWAZ radio. But check this out. So this is Africa. Now, Nyerere, you got to know. So for a lot of us, this is what I really dislike about the American, quote-unquote, Pan-Africanism versus, the global Pan-Africanism is that it took me a long time to really read deeply into Nyerere, and just the fact that this kind of thing was in 2009, I could have read this, a long time ago. But, we're kind of insular in the Americas and or in America, and that's like really a problem. But Nyerere is, I put him in the top 3 Africans of the 20th century. Okay, top 3 Africans of the 20th century, top 3 African minds of the 20th century. And if you go pound for pound, record for record, he's arguably, he's arguably up there. Obviously, you gotta celebrate Garvey, but pound for pound, Nyerere unites 2 freaking countries on the continent. He's the Pan-Africanist. He's a good man, and so Chinweizu is gonna give him props over here, and you just gotta appreciate him for that. Anyway, so don't expect too many viewers or too many likes, but everybody who's here, I appreciate you. I know you're busy. I know you have things to do, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna read through this book and get with it. I'm supposed to be reading this other book, obviously, but it's not going well, so at least let me read some of this. So Kwame Nkrumah was famous for advocating a government for the entire continent of Africa, for what he projected as the United States of Africa, and sometimes referred to as the Union Government of Africa or a Union of African States. His slogan was "Africa must unite." That was his public position until he died in 1972. However, it was reported by no less a figure than Amilcar Cabral that Nkrumah was thinking of modifying his position before he died in exile. It is significant that before he died, Nkrumah told Cabral, I tell you one thing, our problem of African unity is very important, really, but now if I had to begin again, my approach would be different. Now, that's really not enough information, but, make sure you guys check out Return to the Source by Cabral. I was actually I think I was supposed to read one of those books too. But it never worked out that way. Since we had no record of actual changes in Nkrumah's approach, we must hold that his unmodified position was his last position on the matter. So Nkrumah lived and died a continentalist, an advocate to the United States of Africa. With Nyerere, it is different. There is evidence of his own words that he was a continentalist in 1963, just like Nkrumah, and that in 1997, 2 years before he died, he retreated in public from continentalist Pan-Africanism to sub-Sahara Pan-Africanism. So in another essay, he doesn't say sub-Sahara, but it's all good. In 1963, Nyerere, recollecting in 1998, said, Kwame and I met in 1963 and discussed African unity. We differed on how to achieve a United States of Africa, but we both agreed on a United States of Africa as necessary. Ike Weba Bunting's 1998, The Heart of Africa, interview with Julius Nyerere on anti-colonialism, quoted in African Unity, Feeling with Nkrumah, Thinking with Nyerere, by Chambi Chachage in 2009. Which is interesting because that's another thing that you got to give Chinweizu some props for. He's reading this book that was released in 2009, and he's writing an article in 2009. So this book, so I guess August, that's the 7th month, right? Yeah. No, actually, it's probably the 8th month, right? And so 4 months later, after this guy publishes his book, he already has his hand on it. He's already digested it. He's already responding to it, and the depths within. So that's like giving him props right there. Bitter Medicine says greetings. Make sure you guys check out Bitter Medicine's podcast. He's gonna do it on Friday at least. No, number 2, on his 75th birthday speech in 1997, Nyerere stressed the following points: North Africa is part of Europe and the Middle East. Do you hear that? Like sometimes I do wish I had the camera on just so I could show you guys the facial expressions, the exasperation, because what he just said is something that we needed to hear from an African leader at some point, and we haven't. North Africa is part of Europe and the Middle East. End. That's it. That's all you have to say. End of discussion. But let's keep going. Nyerere, I tell you, Nyerere is that guy. He's that guy. And his method for Pan-Africanism, just to relate to you guys, Kwame Nkrumah wanted to every African state right now to unite under one federal government, and Nyerere was like, no, like, let's just work on our trading blocks first. Let's work on East Africa. You guys work on West Africa, and then Kwame Nkrumah sabotages him. Like, what the fudge? And now we have this issue we have with Africa because Kwame Nkrumah was like, it's my way or the highway, and now we're on the fucking highway. And meanwhile, if you guys look at East Africa right now, it's the closest towards Pan-Africanism, or it's closest towards African unity. They have like an East Africa trading bloc. They're finna make it's probably gonna be a state sometime. Like Nyerere got it. He understood it. Progressive change, progressive development, slow growth, but growth, not this or that. It's the ugh. Nyerere, man, and family, you gotta like if nobody else, look into Nyerere. You know what I mean? Like obviously Garvey too, but look into Nyerere. Trigger Happy says, peace. My hunch is that Nyerere might have changed his position because of Gaddafi and his contradictions. Yeah, I mean that's a good hunch. You can see he says North Africa is part of Europe and the Middle East. So B, Africa south of the Sahara is on its own. African leadership, the coming African leadership, will have to bear that in mind. You are on your own. The small countries in Africa south of the Sahara must come together. If we can't move towards bigger nation states, at least let's move towards greater cooperation. See that East Africa stuff he's talking? He's like, look, like he's... So I tell you, man, there's top three in the 20th century. And, I don't know if I should include myself in the 20th century or if I should include myself in the 21st century, right? Because, we're in the 21st century now. But what I'm saying is the top three in the 20th century are Garvey, Carlos Cooks, let me say their whole names since I say his whole name. Marcus Garvey, Carlos Cooks, Julius Nyerere. All right? Those are the top three in the 20th century. All right? You can go before then and be like Dessalines. You can go after then and you can say Chinweizu. But the point is, when you look at the 20th century, just look at it as the century of Garvey, Carlos Cooks, and Julius Nyerere. All right? That's it. Like, look at what he's saying. The small countries in Africa come together. And if we can't even make bigger nation states, at least move towards greater cooperation. And you have to understand, East Africa's doing this right now. Rwanda, Congo, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, all of them are like itching towards, we're going to be a East Africa. You know what I mean? Let's go on. D says, Africa south of the Sahara is isolated. Therefore, to develop, it will have to depend upon its own resources, basically. Internal resources, nationally. And Africa will have to depend upon Africa. The leadership of the future will have to try to carry out policies of maximum national self-reliance and maximum collective self-reliance. They have no other choice. Hamna. You don't have it. You don't have another choice. And you see how he integrates Swahili into his English? He's just... All right, let me... I came out a little bit too, whatever. Brother Bakari says, what's up, Oni and Koku? Right? What's up, Brother Bakari? Trigger Happy's here too. So what's up, everybody? Nyerere gave a wise elders parting advice to Black Africa to be self-reliant and go it alone, to not rely on the Arabs or the Europeans or the Americans or the Japanese or the Indians or any other people whatsoever, as none of them have it in their self-interest to help develop Black Africa. That we are on our own means that Black Africa should organize itself by itself and for itself. I'm telling you guys, this is like, and the thing is this, it's like, here he is, this old man, and he's still just giving the good knowledge to our people. Some people even say, look, so one of the things he did, I mean, because like you go through the laundry list of the things that he's done, like this is a man to emulate. As much as I like Garvey, and I do like Garvey, okay? As much as I like Garvey, and I still put Garvey on the number one spot, right? The only thing holding back Nyerere a little bit is the socialism, but I get why he is the socialist, right? But here's the thing. This is one of the only African leaders, right, to just step down after being in power. Just step down. He also admits to errors and mistakes. He also, quote unquote, detribalized his region. You know what I mean? So like there was maybe like 1,200 languages in Tanzania, or and look, it's Tanganyika and Zanzibar, right? Then he unites two countries and pretty much gives them all a national identity where there's no more of that ethnic conflict, ethnic tension. Like this guy does it. He makes his official language an African language. Some people might be like, oh, Swahili's not that great, whatever. He makes his official language an African language, whereas everybody else is speaking English and French and shit. You know, this is like the guy. Like when you talk about African leadership, I mean, obviously Maurice Bishop's pretty good inside of Grenada, but when you talk about African leadership, Nyerere is like for the modern era is tops. All right, it's tops. So when you're talking about the 20th century, like try to keep Nyerere in the discussion. I'm telling you guys, if nobody else, keep Nyerere in the discussion. Obviously, keep Garvey. Obviously, put Carlos Cooks. But like when you're talking about, especially African leadership, put Nyerere in the conversation. All right. Like this is a man. This is a black man. All right. Yeah. Let's see. Bit of Medicine is just telling Brother Bakari greetings. So in other words, because of our separate and unique situation in the world, black Africans should in effect extricate ourselves from the problem and confusion Nkrumah created 40 years earlier by joining us in an embrace with the Arabs of North Africa in his quest for continental unification. And then that quest did nothing for us. Nothing. All right, so an implication of Nyerere's advice is for us black Africans to withdraw from the Afro-Arab AU, U.S. of Africa, etc., and organize our own blacks-only collective outfit to solve our peculiar problems. In 1963, Nyerere, just like Nkrumah, regarded the entire continent of Africa as a single geopolitical unit, and North African Arabs together with the South of the Sahara blacks as one single constituency. But in 1997, Nyerere made it clear that he considered the South of Sahara Africa Black Africa, a distinct geopolitical unit quite separate in its identity and its destiny from Arab North Africa. In that 1997 speech, Nyerere repeatedly emphasized that he was speaking about Africa south of the Sahara and not of the entire continent. And his reason for considering the North African Arabs as a people apart, a people with a different identity and destiny, is this: North Africa is to Europe what Mexico is to the United States. North Africans will have no jobs. Who have no jobs will not go to Nigeria. They'll be thinking of Europe or the Middle East because of the imperatives of geography and history and religion and language. North Africa is a part of Europe and the Middle East. What we may ask led him to change his view. His reason, as stated in 1997, is purely geopolitical and based on the likely realities of the 21st century. It has nothing to do with whether Arabs love or hate blacks, nothing to do with past historical relations between Arabs and black Africans. So even those who think that Arabs are our brothers and best friends have to consider Nyerere's final position on the matter of Afro-Arab unity or alliance. But that's a pretty interesting thing right there, whether or not he doesn't care if they love you or hate you. He doesn't care about their past historical relations. He's just saying, look, realistically, they're going to Europe. You know what I mean? Just realistically, like you got to be realistic with your outlook, and that's another thing I like about Nyerere. You know, like you just got to be realistic. You don't have to be on the hateful shit. You don't have to be on. You just be realistic. Who's gonna freaking save Africa if not us? Who's looking to develop Africa if not us? Because no one's looking to develop Africa. Just be realistic. That's why I say, like, you know, sometimes it's like that's another thing that you gotta appreciate about him. You know, he's not even gonna go in and be like, you know, these Arabs did us dirty, and that's why we have to. Because a lot of people don't want to hear that. You know, we were on this show yesterday. So Tanzan, she's a part of the KWS Reading Network. She was on Swahili Nation, and so she's on Swahili Nation, and some coons came in, okay. Or some dudes who just like, oh, I love the white man. White man helped me get to school, and white man did this, you know? And it's like, you know what? That's your prerogative. If you want to feel that way about the white man, that's fine. But, and the thing is that you can't win against those people. You know, you can't win against them. If they feel like they like the white man because of XYZ, then they're going to like him because of XYZ. You can't stop that. What you have to do is, instead of going at it from like an emotional lens, if you will, right? You just go on it from just a realistic lens and just be like, look, who's gonna develop Africa? You know, who are even if you pretend, like, I think his argument was, you know, we wouldn't have had all this stuff if not for the European. That's fine, but the European's not doing it again. So who's got to do it? You know what I mean? Like, who's got to do it? And that's it. That's it. You know, Bitter Medicine says what everybody else is thinking right now, which is Nyerere is tops in physical work to me. Like, this dude was the leader. I mean, I I'm mad that Marcus Garvey didn't get the opportunity that he deserved. You know what I mean? But Nyerere got the opportunity, and he shined. And you have to give him props for that, right? So he says, even if indeed there are our brothers and best friends, it is our enlightened geopolitical self-interest not to cling to them in the 21st century. Their history, their circumstance, their aspirations, and their destiny are different from ours. It is significant that Nyerere's argument of our separately taking care of our own business is not based on the history of our relations with the Arabs. I just said that, right? There are some black Africans who feel that because of the Afro-Arab anti-imperialist alliance in the second half of the 20th century, an alliance whereby Arabs gave help to black Africa during the liberation struggles, we should in gratitude treat the Arabs as part of ourselves, or at least as our permanent friends and allies. You know, and, you know, a lot of people say the same thing about Cuba. You know, where it's like, oh, well, you know, the Cubans did more for Africa than blah, blah, blah. Like, shut up. Like, nobody cares. Like, Cuba's now enjoying itself, and it's, like, you just sound immature. You just sound immature. Like, understand that if you don't get your shit together, you're gonna fucking suffer, and you're gonna suffer alone. It doesn't matter how many freaking genocides, how much poverty, how much wars, how many civil wars. Cuba was rocking it. Like, Cuba was good. The only people who are gonna suffer from you looking outside of your burning house is you. You're gonna burn. No one else. You might be like, hey man, you know, that guy put out the fire last time. Yeah, okay, they did it last time. But now you got a fire at your house. So either you put it out and stop looking out the window, or you burn. Somebody clip that. Anyway, all right, sorry. Nyerere knew about the Arab help better than anybody else since he coordinated that help in his position as chairman of the OAU Liberation Committee. But despite all that, Nyerere is indicating that our interest in the 21st century demands that we give up that idea of relying on or identifying with the Arab. We must recognize no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, only our permanent interest. And our interest in the 21st century, Nyerere urged, is distinct from the interest of the North African Arabs. We must accept that fact and draw the necessary conclusions and act on them. Whatever help the Arabs gave to the anti-colonial struggles in Black Africa, it does not require that we ignore the reality of the divergence of interest in the 21st century. Nyerere is pointing out a key aspect of our reality that must be made the foundation of our behavior. There's time to be on one's own, and that time for Black Africa is the 21st century. We are blessed with the fact that Nyerere lived long enough and spoke his mind toward the end so that we don't have to speculate on where he would have ended up on this issue. With the wisdom of experience and at the end of a long life, he arrived at the conclusion that we must go our own way and self-reliantly, and that, I think, is what we should do if we are sane, right? So let's keep going. He's going to talk about Amos Wilson here. But all right, certainly not. All right, so, but is Nyerere likely to be heeded, right? So he's like, certainly not by the N-word crazies whose inferiority complex makes them pathologically terrified of blacks-only association. To understand why Nkrumahs and other continentalists are unlikely to accept Nyerere's advice, we need to appreciate the psychological yearning that continentalism satisfies. Continentalism is the political counterpart of social integrationism, and both belong to the same complex of pathologies as skin bleaching and hair straightening. All are desperate attempts to desert the now powerless black race and join the now more powerful white race. That's all people want to do. But that's what I'm saying. That's why I always tell you guys, you know, we have to focus on power. I'm writing in my Discord. The latest thought that I have, the latest stream of thought I'm having is, you know, how do you get to the leadership? How do you appeal to the leadership? And like, there are multiple ways to do it, but for the most part, you know, you got to realize that a lot of us are resigned to never engaging with the leadership of the countries we're in. You know, let's see what the comments are. Trigger Happy says, yeah, we have to understand that everyone is playing a game, even if you think they are amicable, and that if you don't play the game in geopolitics, you will get left behind. Yup, and Bitter Medicine says what Trigger said. All right. Continentalists, like all compulsive integrationists, are psychological victims of the white supremacist dogma that blacks cannot achieve anything without white guidance. As Amos Wilson explained, they had been intimidated by Eurocentric history, by the inflated European achievements. Yeah, I mean, like, one thing that you'll notice about, like, basically, like I said, you go to Swahili Nation yesterday, and, you know, eventually the second coon shows up, right? And this guy is like, yeah, you know, the Europeans are good and great, and, you know, what we had before the Europeans came was terrible. And you're just like, You know what I realized is that they never opened up a history book. Like the coons do not open up history books. When you don't study your history, right? It's like I think it was Dr. Clark who said it, in fact. He said if you begin your history from 400 years ago, right? Then if you begin your history from slavery, then everything seems like progress. You know what I mean? Like everything. There's nothing that doesn't seem like progress if you begin your history with slavery. And it's not to say that you should begin your history with, gold, diamonds and shit like that. But the reality is that if you, like the guy was saying, like this guy was literally saying this. He was like, oh, we used to be in trees. Like we used to be swinging from trees. Like if you believe that you were swinging from trees before the white man showed up, then obviously you're not mad at the white man. But the thing is that even the white man's records, if you study history, says ain't nobody was swinging from fucking trees. That doesn't make any sense. Like, how are you gonna swing from trees? You're not a freaking. You're not like maybe a monkey could do that, but you're a human being. There's nobody who could just swing from trees like that. You know what I mean? Like it's just not even a thing. Like it's just not even a thing. Like maybe if you go back 2 million years, sure, humans were probably swinging from trees, but though that's unlikely. But even when you go and you look at Africa, you say to yourself, there's so much land that doesn't have any trees in it. So like, what were they doing when there's no trees? You know what I mean? There's so many fields, I mean, and like, yeah. And then not just that, it's like, that we were an agricultural people at least. So it's just like the likelihood of agricultural people swinging from trees, like for what? Like for what? You have farms. Why would you swing from a tree? Like where does that even make sense? But if you're believing the Eurocentric history, which is you were swinging from trees, then it's like, yeah, if you're no longer swinging from trees, that seems like a progress. But again, it's not even reality. It's just you buying into their equivalent of Hollywood once upon a time. Their literature that was just like, man, these motherfuckers, like exotic, so on and so forth. Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent, right? Anyway, so let's go on. All this talk about the great achievements of the Europeans, of the great white race, has intimidated them, and they subconsciously say to themselves, hey, we better hang in with these white people, because if we lose them, we're going back into barbarism and primitiveness. Blacks can't be on their own. And again, I'm telling you, this is not even like make believe. You know what I mean? Like, this is exactly what some dude in 2022, two dudes in 2022 said. Not even like trolling. Like the second guy was like, I have a degree in Afrocentrism. Like I got a degree in African history or something like that, or African studies. Like I have a degree in African studies under Molefi Asante. Molefi Asante's program is, some consider it to be a Temple University. Some consider it to be one of the best African studies departments in America, right? And America is considered a pretty damn well designed pretty Afrocentric, when it wants to be, right? So it's probably the best, so on and so forth. The guy has a degree studying under Molefi Asante, one of the bigger historians of America, right? We're talking like 100 books or something like that, or 80 books. He's like 80 years old. He's very prolific, so on and so forth. And studying under this guy somehow, and I wouldn't put this on Molefi Asante, although Molefi Asante has been, acting funny recently, but I wouldn't put this on Molefi Asante. All the same, the guy studying this, and he's thinking like this caricature that you would think is, ain't nobody believe that. Like, you guys could go listen to it. Tanzam was hosting the show. It was a long show, though. And I'd probably skip toward the end because I was saying some goofy stuff earlier. But anyway, so consciously they are driven to seek white company and to fear and flee from any blacks-only group. Yeah. So lacking self-confidence and lacking confidence in the black race, they are pathologically grasping at any white straw to keep themselves from drowning. If Europeans are not available, then they go to the next best thing, the white Arabs. Hence, their craving for continentalism, their negrophobic subconscious is insistently telling them that without whites, we can't take care of our own business. We can't be on our own. We can't go it alone. And black people will do this. Like the one guy, the one coon I was telling you guys about yesterday, the first one, he was like, basically white folk pressured him out of America. You know, they were like, oh, you're not worth anything, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes to Africa and he gets tied up inside of some legal troubles. And he's like, Africans are the worst. Now the white people kicked him out of a whole fucking country. But he's like, black people are the worst. It's so weird. But anyway, we'll mess it up. We can't go it alone. We'll mess it up. That's the negrophobic message that they get from their N-wordized subconscious. The message that drives them to cling desperately to whites. That is the mindset that will prevent continentalists from taking Nyerere's advice about black Africans being on their own. And so this was his book. This was the weekly column, The Black Power Pan-Africanist Perspective. Appears every Thursday in the Lagos newspaper Business Day. So in Business Day, so that's what I'm saying. Like, give the guy some props. There's a newspaper in Nigeria, right? In the capital city of Nigeria. And every Thursday he's writing a column, The Black Power Pan-Africanist Perspective. You know, nice title. And people are probably reading it. Probably people are, some not reading it, but it's like he's reaching people. So you got to give him his props. And of course, you know, it was on this website as well, alafrica.com. So props to him for recognizing and remembering Nyerere. Props to him for giving out this message. I mean, obviously, I'm not a fan of the N-word, but, you know, I get why he uses it. It's kind of odd to see it being used in Nigeria, but, you know, again, he's also using Amos Wilson and other things, so it's not really surprising. But, you know, props to this brother. That was a good article about a good man, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think, but until then, I wish I had more comments, but I guess I don't, so I'm not going to rush you guys. I'm not going to waste your time. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. And, of course, make sure you guys check out the Chinweizu Radio Network and all that jazz. Oh, and I forgot to show you guys. So I do have a book. I will show you guys this really quickly so you guys could say, hey, what if I wanted to read from you, Oni? What can I do? Well, here's what you could do. This is my book it's called The Book of Power. It's over here. You guys could check it out. Again, it's like, to become powerful, you must implement power building strategies. Our ancestors from Marcus Garvey to Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Ketty Saba to Julius Nyerere, you know, utilize and explain their power building strategies and exemplify the characteristics of modern leadership. So you guys could read more about this. Definitely check it out. It's on Amazon. This is your host, Onitaset, and that's it. Shemi Hotep, Ankuja Neb Neb, Amen, Ma'at, Dua, Netcher.